So welcome back, guys. About collusion and corruption, I'm talking now. And situation is like this. What is this Rosneft deal about? Can you imagine? I mean, I'm preaching now the last 20 years about anti-corruption, anti-collusion in the new countries, Kosovo, Ukraine, to join the European Union, to be good. And there's so much talking. All the European diplomats and the American diplomats talk. You shouldn't be corrupt. You shouldn't do that. And what kind of message does it send when the Russian state is then inviting the former Prime Minister of Germany and the former Foreign Minister of Austria to join the Rosneft board? To understand the dimension, I have to explain what is Rosneft. Rosneft is like Gazprom is for gas, Rosneft is for petrol. And in many ways, it's basically incorporated the former Ministry of Energy of the Soviet Union. So that's not just one energy company in Russia. That's not just one small kind of, it's like OMV. Yes, it's of course a big company, but it's basically the reincarnation of the Russian state. And don't forget, we have sanctions against Russia since 2014 for Crimea, for Navalny, for Nemtsov, for all the other things that Russia has done in the last 7 years. And now we really don't care. And our ex-elite, they are of course retired in a sense, or they're no longer public servants. But of course, they are seen like famous personalities from Austria and Germany. And in the case of Schröder, he's really, the former prime minister. He has still a lot of power. Yes, Mrs. Kneißl is not so famous and not so powerful in Austria, but she is obviously the symbol of the waltz with Putin at her wedding, and she has also some influence, obviously, as former diplomat and foreign minister. So ultimately, to take these personalities and that they accept it, and they get really very well paid by the Russian state, the media have now told, yesterday was published, 500,000 is the compensation for basically a part-time job for Rosneft. Because as a supervisory board member, you carry a lot of responsibility. You fly maybe 10 times a year to Moscow and you sit in these meetings where you have translation. You hardly understand what's going on. Mrs. Kneißl, for example, she is not an energy expert, obviously. And no, in the meantime, Schröder is probably. But so the situation is that this is happening during sanctions. This is happening during a major conflict which we have with Russia. And accepting such, it cannot be seen anything else as treason. It's treasonous enable activity towards the European unification idea. And how do you think the Estonians, the Romanians and others are seeing that? And especially the Ukrainians and the Georgians. I mean, this is an outrageous thing. And in Austria, obviously, what is the effect? When I'm, for example, for NATO, most Austrian politicians and leaders, they will see it like this. She is smart. She is lucky. And they will call her, congratulate her and tell, if you're in Moscow and, I have this subcontractor, can you help us with connections? Can you help this? Because they all see it as a wonderful thing for Austria, because she is now very well connected in the Russian center of power, and she will sit with all these important people, and Putin will be generous also to the rest of Austria. And so far for Europe, so far for European solidarity. And obviously in Brussels, the Austrian elite will always vote with the Germans, like not to have any kind of confrontation. But what else, always kind of complaining, talking badly, and always making a bad face about it and calling it would be nice to have a relation with Russia again. And so undermining step by step the European responsibility, always thinking that maybe Putin will be as generous as he is with Wolfgang Schüssel, who is also sitting in I think it's Lukoil. Then Schelling, the former Minister of Finance, is advisor to Nord Stream 2. And then we have also the former Prime Minister Kern, who is advisor and the board member to the State Railway Company. And then we have also Gusenbauer, who is also, you remember the Habsburg Group and all these shenanigans around the Manafort. And he is very successful, it's claimed. But obviously, who are the clients? And you can be sure it's mainly the Russian state companies. And that's the situation we face today. And that's in many ways, I think, very disappointing. It's disappointing morally, and it's also a bad role model, and it's also quite in line what seemingly is standard in Germany, and I know from Finland they do it the same. Because of course neutrality has to pay, and friendship is important, and so the whole European, Central European elite, they think very careful. The next time they have something Ukraine wants or Ukraine has to join the EU, they will all remember what Gneisel has got, and they will think, oh, it's better I'm very not available for Ukrainian ambassadors, I'm better very non-available for Ukrainian politicians, because maybe if I behave nice, Russia watches me, and then later I will be invited to a wonderful board of Rosneft. And if you are for Ukraine, you get the hammer. Basically, as today the presidential spokesperson of Ukraine has this very great American-Swedish expert Aslund. He was then accused of not being pro-Ukrainian enough and believing old narratives at the same time when this was announced for Rosneft. So that's the status of Austrian-German politics and of our relation also with, of course, Nord Stream 2. Because obviously now with this kind of big step forward for Mrs. Gneisel, and then the Austrian state will continue to be so pro Nord Stream 2, you cannot believe it, yeah? Because our state company is obviously a big stakeholder there. The OMV CEO is the cheerleader of Gazprom and Rosneft in Central Europe. And so it works, and the ruble rolls, and we are in a big mess in Europe. And if America is back, first please, and this kind of issues have to be addressed. But everybody wants to be friend and everybody wants to be nice, so I don't think there will be any decisive changes, and just a few people getting much richer, and of course the war in Ukraine going on. And Ukraine's EU and NATO ambitions will be sacrificed easily for some beautiful board positions of the select few who during their time in power, in public responsibility, don't annoy Russia, or at least please Russia best, and then get handsomely rewarded by Putin's power mechanisms in a quite extraordinary way, something they would have never achieved in Austria. Now they are in this kind of positions. And so it is. So what I can say, you know, this is of course the role model. Everybody in Southeastern Europe watches, everybody in Ukraine watches, every politician in the whole concerned area thinks, okay, what's in for me? If the game is anyhow without morals, if the game is anyhow without any principles, then everybody just thinks, what's in for me? And this we foster, and this we create. And this kind of complicity we basically promote with accepting such kind of positions during EU sanctions. Because, you know, why we sanction then anybody in Russia when we accept such kind of positions? It's kind of makes the whole European concept of sanctions completely ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous. Yeah? We sanction some medium-level official that he cannot travel, and on the same time, the ex-politicians accept such board memberships with €500,000 compensation or dollar compensation. I mean, it's unspeakable. And that's it. What can I say? The task of our diplomats to promote anti-corruption and anti-collusion in Southeastern Europe and in Ukraine will be not extremely helped by such decisions of our German and Austrian political elite. Okay, what to say? Peace.